In the beginning was the cave. And the cave was. Then the cave that was became the cave that is. The word got out, and the people came to see. The cave that was, the cave that is, Fossil Cave today. Fossil Cave is a cathedral of nature's wonder and beauty. It is a magnificent example of karst. Where chemistry meets physics, the spring meets the cascades, and the dark meets the light. Here, the waters spring forth from the depths of the earth, and the earth meets the sky. Our journey begins with two cavers. One had a camera, the other one had a cave. And they thought this might be something other folks would like to see. It wasn't long before we realized in order to video document this wonderful cave and all its splendor, we needed more volunteers to help us uncover the mysteries of Fossil Cave that await in the deep, just beyond the reaches of each light we bring and every footstep we take. So we put out the word and asked for some help. We invited a group of college students from Asbury College in Wilmore, Kentucky to join us. It wasn't long before they arrived, a few at first. And later, even more cavers arrived. Young and old, ready for the challenge, and who wanted to go spelunking into the depths of Fossil Cave. It would take several trips to explore and videotape the cave. So we invited others to join the fun. Novices and experts, curiosity seekers, and experienced cavers. We invited surveyors and scientists, all to help us take a closer look into Fossil Cave. We even had an unexpected volunteer show up, and he seemed very eager to help us out. He was ready to go where we would lead him and follow us wherever we might go, and offer us support in the best way he knew how. Nature lovers all came together. We were ready for the challenge and interested in exploring and treading softly upon and under our planet Earth. Thanks to the conservation efforts and generosity of Kentucky native and cave explorer Art White and his family, are we able to take this rare look at the natural wonder we call Fossil Cave. And thanks to the White family, it will be preserved in its pristine state for generations to come.
Good morning, Dad.
Good morning to you, Art.
Here we are today out at Long Hollow. Beautiful day here on the Easter weekend.
Well, yes, it is. A little on the cool side, but that's good. You get in the cave, it'll be nice and warm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to an adventure with you down here in the cave, in Fossil Cave, and we've got some special friends here with us today. Julie and Daryl. Remember Julie and Daryl 4 or 5 years ago? They came and mapped the cave, spent a lot of time here.
Oh, yeah, I do recall meeting them then. Very dedicated cavers.
Yeah, they are. Very special friends to us, and helped us out a lot here with the cave, and gave us some lessons about it, and helped us protect the cave even a little more, because they registered it as a landowner's request to close the cave to all cavers, and we really did appreciate them doing that for us.
Yes, I certainly do, because as you know and they know, the cave is it's not littered up. There's no spray paint. It's a very virgin-looking cave.
Yes, it is. You remember how we acquired this cave, and you brought me out here and showed me this place?
Well, sure, I remember that very well. Started by reading the newspaper, and I happened to see an auction ad advertising the property, and it mentioned that their water was furnished by spring coming from a cave-fed spring.
Of course, I remember once you brought me out here and showed me the cave, I remember from high school and our little caving group of friends that we had, and I remembered being in the cave, so it sparked a new interest in it for me, and the beauty of this cave and the fossils and the water and all in it, and very excited the day that you bought the cave, and then a few years later got excited again when you seen my love for the property and gave me the property or deeded it over to me. I do appreciate that, and along with that is the third generation, your grandson or my son Chris, to be the future owner of the property someday.
Yeah, Art, I think it's very special to own a cave. I've always liked caves. I'm not a professional caver by any means, but I recall probably the first cave I ever went in was probably at age 5 or 6. It's not too far from here, down on a nearby road, and at that time it was kind of I don't think there was professional cavers maybe, but it's kind of a cave that when out-of-state relatives came back home to visit, kind of go out there and look around, and I recall there's arrowheads just all over the place, and we'd pick them up, look at them, lay them back down, and go on.
Good morning, Chris. I'm real glad that you could come and join me and your grandfather and Julie and Daryl for this cave trip today, and I hope you have fun and grow to appreciate the cave as much as your grandfather and I have, and because someday it's going to be yours, and for you to protect and preserve for the next generation of your children.
Morning, Dad. Yeah, this has always been something I've like doing. I mean, I'm always outdoors, fishing, hunting, doing whatever. I mean, I've always liked going in caves and out with you outside and whatnot, and just appreciate y'all letting me go with you.
Well, we're very glad to have you with us and very proud of you. You're an outstanding young man, and proud of the things that you have accomplished, and you're hunting and fishing and the love for the outdoors, and it's an admirable thing to do in this day and time, because there's a lot of trouble in the world that you could be involved in, and I'm glad to see that you enjoy the outdoors instead of the other things.
Yeah, there's a lot of trouble in the world, and this is being outdoors and whatnot has kept me out of a lot of trouble, I think.
Well, you ready to go caving?
Yep, let's go.
Good morning, it's Julie and Daryl talking about the survey and exploration of Fossil Cave here in Long Hollow, Kentucky. I've been caving for a little over 20 years. I was introduced to caving in Kentucky by a person named Dr. Percy H. Doc Doherty, who was a geography professor when I was an undergraduate student, and he introduced me to caving and especially survey and exploration. We were able to cave and survey quite a bit in Kentucky back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I had met Daryl in 1995, and I let him discuss how he got into caving.
Hi, I'm Daryl. I got into caving about 95. As at work one day, read a newspaper article about an accident in Sloan's Valley, and I said, I really need to go down to that cave and see what it's all about. And then I met Julie, and it was just cave on.
Shoulder up your gun, whistle for the dog. Shoulder up your gun, whistle for the dog. Off to the wildwood to catch a groundhog. Oh, groundhog, groundhog, groundhog. I dug down, but I didn't dig deep. I dug down, but I didn't dig deep. There laid a whistle big fast asleep. Oh, groundhog, groundhog, groundhog. Lucy with a big long pole. Come here, Lucy with a big long pole. Twist that whistle big out his hole. Oh, groundhog, groundhog, groundhog. Up run Reuben with a snicker and a grin. Up run Reuben with a snicker and a grin. Groundhog gravy all over his chin. Oh, groundhog, groundhog, groundhog. Eat up the meat and save the hide. Eat up the meat and save the hide. Make the best shoestrings ever was tied. Oh, groundhog, groundhog, groundhog. Now the meat's in the cupboard and the butter's in the churn. Meat's in the cupboard and the butter's in the churn. If that ain't a groundhog, I'll be darned. Oh, groundhog, groundhog, groundhog. Laying in the bed, two old maids laying in the bed. One rolled over to the other and said, oh, groundhog, groundhog, groundhog.
ancient, hollowed-out 50 feet high cliff, adorned with a cascading waterfall, drape the entrance of Fossil Cave today. At the entrance of Fossil Cave, the dark mingles with the light along the 100-foot wide cliff line, where the cave stream outflows and pours over the rocks. And soon disappears into the subterranes of Long Hollow. As we pass through the gate and walk into the cave and explore the keyhole-shaped stream passage, light is suddenly overcome by the darkness, and our headlamps can only cut small slivers into the overwhelming darkness. As we press onward into the cavern, our lights dance like fireflies in the night. It takes some time for our eyes to adjust to these conditions. They say it takes up to 30 minutes to adjust and really see well and to navigate using feeble light beams to cut through what truly is absolute darkness. As our eyes adjust, we see the cave is a huge borehole stream passage with evidence of ancient waters that long ago flowed through the cave and hollowed out this passage. Within 500 feet of the entrance, the passage widens and we encounter a breakdown pile and the first side passages. Here, two upper passages join the trunk. The passage on the right leads to and shows evidence of receding waterfalls. And we see there are actually two upper levels here, as indicated by the water falling from the top of the dome, and a separate dry passage which trends upward and leads to another high-level dome complex. As we explored deeper into the cave, we were amazed and our eyes widened every time we looked up, searching the ceiling with our lights. And we wondered exactly how high are these ceilings? The walls seemed to reach towards the ceiling like skyscrapers. No precise data was available from the previous surveys. So we asked caver and laser beamer Bill Walden to help us determine ceiling heights at various points in the cave using modern technology, a laser distance range finder that is accurate to within 1/10 of an inch. Along the way, we will quote his results. At this point, at the first junction of the intersecting old paleo high-level passages, Bill recorded a distance from the floor below the dome to the ceiling at 42.6 feet. The first known recorded survey of the cave is dated 1971 and was mapped to a distance of 2,000 feet by Dave McMonagle and other members of the DAS, a grotto of the National Speleological Society. From 1999 to 2001, Miami Valley grotto cavers, including Julie Shank and Daryl Robinson, pushed, explored, and remapped Fossil Cave. And recorded a survey to a distance of 5,295 feet.
Tell us about the exploration and the survey of the upper level passage that we eventually named Art's Attic.
Well, that's a really funny story. We really couldn't find a way to get up there, and so we had asked Art to borrow his 30-foot extension ladder. So we hauled it up to the cave in sections, and Art said, "Don't worry about it if you bend it or break it. We'll just leave it, and I'll get a new one." But it was a really, really hairy climb. It was about 30 feet or so. And it wasn't no fun climbing over the end of the ladder, getting up there to the ledge. But we managed to get up there, and everything went fine. And we did some surveying, got some footage out of it. But that was a really, really fun time when we did nothing but probably laugh most of the day on that day.
I remember that. It was really hairy, and we're both vertical cavers, and there was no way we were going to be able to set bolts and, use single rope technique to get into that area. The rock was so rotten from the volume of water that it flowed down into there, and honestly, I couldn't think of a easier way to go up with that ladder, and we both had a fantastic time. It wasn't something that you always get to do, survey a cave with the landowner's permission and say, "Take my ladder in there," and you all push it hard.
Yeah, Art, we appreciate Art loaning us this ladder. We probably never would have been able to get up there otherwise.
Yeah, I think probably the most special thing to me about this cave is the fact that it's so pristine and it's perfect. I mean, it's just beautiful hydrology, beautiful geology, historic preservation from the saltpeter days, but also having really good friends in Art and Brenda White, as well as his father, Mr. Ted White, and just always having that friendship and treasuring that friendship and knowing that there's people in the world who understand and protect our natural resources and realize there's nothing more special on earth than to go into a cave. So we're at the entrance of Fossil Cave here. It's a limestone cave, and basically you can see deposits of limestone that are laid down on top of us. And the name Fossil Cave is actually an excellent name for this cave system. Because it's basically an old paleo trunk passage, and when we say paleo, it's just a very fancy word for ancient or old. It's an old passage that, if you can imagine, at one point in this valley behind Darrell, was all part of a large cave system.
Fossil Cave is so named for two reasons. One, for the abundance of crinoid fossils that can be found throughout the cave, and two, for the fact that it is a paleo cave. At this junction, we found exceptional examples of ancient paleo passages and incredible crinoid fossils embedded in the ceiling.
Cluster of crinoid stems here, Chris. One there has got to be a bit of 9 or 10 inches long. And all these little ones just embedded in the rocks around it.
These crinoid fossils were much larger than what is commonly found in the area. And we decided to bring our tape measure back on another occasion to measure exactly how long they were. We even consulted with local and regional geologists to determine how rare indeed these fossils were. One of those geologists, William Hopper, joined us and explains what we found.
What we have here is fossilized crinoid stems. Crinoid is an echinoderm. It's a relative of the present-day starfish that lived in these Mississippian seas. The whole animal is rarely ever fossilized. At the top of the stalks was a thing called a calyx, which was a sort of a cup, sort of a thing with tentacles sticking out from them. The reason you don't see them very often fossilized is because they were composed of numerous silica plates on soft tissue. So and they sat at the top of a stalk, this is part of that stalk. The stalk attached to the bottom. It was a sessile animal. It didn't move. It stayed in one place, and beds of them, the whole expanses of beds of these animals came up from the sea bottom, and occasionally when they were knocked over by wave action, sediment influxes, they were easily broken up. You very seldom ever see the tops of the animals, but you see a lot of the parts of the stems, such as this. And this is a fairly well-preserved piece of stem. It even has some of the side branches preserved there. And there's a good one right there. Okay. And this is a silica. The shells were composed of silica rather than calcium carbonate. That's why when the limestone dissolves, the calcium carbonate limestone dissolves, but the silica shell stays intact. The silica doesn't dissolve, so you get to see parts of the fossil embedded in the stone, or it erodes out and washes down creek beds. And you see clues such as the fact that we have broken fossils. Okay, that's the clue that there was some wave energy here. This wasn't a totally quiet, brackish piece of water. There was wave energy here. I think that right in here could be what's left of a crinoid head or a calyx, what we call a calyx. But it's not well preserved. It's all mishmashed up, but I believe that this material right in here might be part of that head that's been destroyed and disarticulated. They're splattered all over the place and busted into little pieces. Some of them are like actually got whole pieces here. There wasn't enough energy to break that up, but it did break the animal, but it didn't break this into tiny little pieces of stem.
Now, time frame.
It's definitely before Christ.
Just upstream, from the maze of intersecting old high-level passages, we encounter the first major breakdown pile, where huge rocks jammed the stream bed and created this beautiful pool. As we climb over and around the breakdown pile, there is a major bend in the stream, perhaps created by this breakdown. And here we enter the elbow room. Here, one high-level and two low-level conduits join the trunk passage. One of the low-level conduits is still active and contains a stream that empties into the main passage. And here we discover the remains of the Civil War. Along the banks, we find remnants of previous cavers. And today, we can still see what they left behind. Bits and pieces of charred wood, hollows in the mud banks where the saltpeter vats were once located, and the dump piles of mud and debris that were left behind after they processed the saltpeter.
The saltpeter mining was done in the cave, folks. These little indentions, coffin-shaped looking indentions in this loose dirt. This saltpeter has always intrigued me.
They did a lot of work to it. The other ones I've seen were a little smaller scale than this. There's 2 other caves up the creek.
Now, exactly what was saltpeter? I mean, what did they extract from the dirt?
Okay, what it was, there's calcium nitrate in the dirt, which people think is from the urine of bats and whatnot for some reason, but there's nitrates in cave soil. We think it's from urine from bats.
Okay.
It's in the form of calcium nitrate. They would dig the earth, put it in the vats, run the water through that earth, what we call leaching. And they would leach the calcium nitrate, which is soluble, would dissolve in the water running down through the soil.
Okay.
It would come out at the bottom of the vat, what they call leachate, which is rich in calcium nitrate.
Okay.
They would take that leachate and take it to someplace usually just outside the cave where they had a big fire going in a big kettle, and they would boil that liquor, what they call liquor, boil that calcium nitrate rich liquid. They'd boil it. And in the boiling process, they'd throw in a load of wood ashes, charcoal.
Okay.
And the potassium from the wood products would replace the calcium and the calcium nitrate. And when everything was boiled off, there would be a white powder lining the kettle. That white powder lining the kettle was potassium nitrate.
All right.
The potassium had replaced the calcium with the nitrate and crystallized out the solid, and that is saltpeter, potassium nitrate.
Okay.
And that is a critical ingredient in gunpowder. Gunpowder is made from charcoal, sulfur, and potassium nitrate.
All right.
Potassium nitrate is the explosive element in gunpowder.
And then the Buck Creek Basin, most of this was Confederates?
That, to my knowledge, that is the thought, is that this was clandestine Confederate saltpeter refining, and the saltpeter refined here was removed to Tennessee somewhere to be made into gunpowder at a Confederate powder mill. And they were dodging Union cavalry patrols here, but you got to remember how remote this area is.
For light, they used white oak torches that are similar to tobacco sticks. And they would use these with or without rags dipped in kerosene as they explored and mined the cave. They also used coal oil lanterns to light their way. The markings on this fallen beech tree, located near the entrance to the cave, are said to be a record of the number of loads of saltpeter mined in Fossil Cave during the Civil War. elbow room, we begin to see bats, with their feet glued to the ceiling. At the junction of this side passage and the main stream passage, we found an odd-colored bat. This bat appeared to be an albino. It was very light-colored, as you can see. We were puzzled. It was unlike any bat we recalled seeing throughout our decades of cave exploration. So, we consulted the experts, including Dr. Virgil Brack. According to Dr. Brack, until recently the scientific name was known as Pipistrellus subflavus, common name eastern pipistrelle. Recent scientific evidence found that this bat is not related to bats of the genus Pipistrellus in other parts of the world. So, it was renamed Paramyotis subflavus, common name the tricolored bat. As one explores upstream from the elbow room, the ceiling lowers to about 4 feet, and the breakdown gives way to a smooth mud bank that runs along the now pooled and calm stream. One must watch out for the bats clinging to the low ceiling as he passes by. A sound that is the roar of the rain room begins as we explore upstream from the elbow room. In spite of the water being calm at first, the sound grows louder and louder as we explore upstream. Then we find the Y junction and the gravel bar that is just before a huge breakdown pile. The rain room is hidden behind an enormous breakdown pile. Like most breakdown piles in Kentucky caves, one must climb, squeeze through, and twist around to find a way to the other side. Unlike many breakdown piles that lead to a dead end, here the thunderous roar of water, what sounds like a summertime downpour, fills the air, echoing all around, and it is obvious that something incredible is just beyond the bus-sized rocks jammed together. And here is the multi-level dome complex that is the rain room and the twin waterfalls. The first time I saw the twin falls, all I could say is wow, and I thought this is cave paradise. Our friends from Asbury College were speechless when they discovered the twin falls. They stood there before the falls in awe as the water sprang forth like rain from the ceiling, kissing their cheeks and splashing their feet when it hit the floor, and joined the stream passage below. Beautiful runneled walls set the stage like draperies behind the falls, created by ages of water flow. We were curious about exactly how high the falls were. We measured the fall's height at 25.0 for fall number 1 and 24.9 for fall number 2. And, as the naked eye suggests, the water breaks through a thin layer of chert at the same elevation. Art named the second waterfall the Shower, and it surely is. Note how the water sprinkles through the holes in the black chert. Just behind this waterfall is a secret passage. It doesn't really go anywhere, but it's an interesting passage nonetheless. Upstream from the waterfalls, the main stream passage continues for more than 1,500 feet, where it ends in breakdown. rain room is full of many other wonders, including this pocket in the breakdown within 30 feet of the waterfall. About 50 feet from the Twin Falls is the junction of the Hidden Falls Passage, and herein lies the mystery of the hidden waterfalls that can be heard but not seen. This side passage is a paleo dome complex. You can begin to hear the sound of the hidden waterfalls as you explore the side passage. The walls and ceiling in this passage look very similar to the walls and ceiling of the Twin Falls. But in the hidden waterfall passage, the walls are dry now. However, there is evidence of earlier waterfalls. The runnels in this passage indicate that water flowed down to create the walls and carve out this beautiful passage. At the end of the passage, you can see an upper-level keyhole breaking through the chert and evidence of even older, former waterfalls, and upper-level passages where the water used to overflow into this passage. About a third of the way into this passage, we find this abandoned waterfall and can see at the top of it the same layer of thin chert that seems to be identical to what we find at the Twin Waterfalls. And at the end of this passage, you can see similar evidence of another, perhaps former waterfall. And also you can see evidence of upper level passages where the water used to flow into this passage. As one stands at the now end of this hidden waterfall passage, you can still hear the water flow. Only the sound is just out of reach. While the water can't be seen today, anyone who has stood here will attest that they have heard the hidden waterfalls. They would also attest that the water is directly behind this wall. We measured the ceiling height here to 43.8 feet. While we can hear what appears to be a waterfall behind the wall, the mystery still remains. What exactly is behind the wall? And where does the water come from? And where does it go? The small stream exsurgence near the Hidden Waterfalls Passage is probably where the water flows to today. We observed the same sound of water at this exsurgence that can be heard in the Hidden Waterfall Room. We could spend ages exploring and describing every foot of this cave's natural beauty and wonder. For example, beyond the rain room, the ceiling lowers to a mere 2 feet high in some places, and the main passage is 200 feet wide, and goes for hundreds and hundreds of feet. For all we have seen in the cave, thousands of feet of passage are waiting for our footsteps and cameras. However, in the spirit of conservation and that of the landowner's request, we decided to let it be, as it was, and as it is, Fossil Cave today. Art White and I took one more trip into the cave, and I realized that this chapter in the cave's exploration was coming to an end. I realized it was time to exit the cave and return it back to the undisturbed darkness of the earth. I sadly followed Art as we chased the water that once fell on my head in the rain room and out to the entrance where the darkness meets the light and the earth meets the sky. Searching for words and reflecting upon our journey and the joy of the fellowship of my friend Art, I counted every step and listened to the splashes, pops, and cracks echo throughout the passage as we walked slowly towards the gated entrance. Knowing that Art rarely allows anyone into the cave, I felt privileged that I was able to interrupt several years of the cave's natural state of darkness and solitude. I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to view its splendor and to bring cameras and lights to document this cave and share it with others. As Art closed the gate and locked it behind us, I knew that the cave would be left as we found it, like it had been for decades, clean and pristine, and it would be protected for many years to come. I wondered what Art was thinking as we left the cave, and I could almost hear him say, "Rest, my cave, rest in peace, and I will see you again someday."